The next trade is speculation over what price should Ethereum be on the day it goes live. That's all that matters. And if people think Ethereum should be at all-time highs the day it goes live, it doesn't mean it's going to shoot there in one candle. Here's my view of it. In a really simple sense, just a few days ago, everyone was bearish Ethereum, right? And now suddenly everyone's bullish Ethereum, and the consensus is, well, you want to be long Ethereum. And I'm saying that too, don't get me wrong. Is Ethereum the best thing to focus on in the lead up to the ETH ETF? Probably, yeah. I mean, it would be dumb to expect otherwise. It's going to have the most attention, the most articles written about it, the most trading, the most volume. I mean, you can already see this. Ethereum's volumes are broadly higher than, if I go to like Bybit, Ethereum's trading at higher volumes than, move in here, derivatives. If you look here on the left side, volumes, Ethereum volume 11.7 billion, Bitcoin 9.8 billion. And it's the same on spot markets, it's the same on Binance, it's the same across most of the market. Ethereum is trading more than Bitcoin, as you'd expect. It's time for Ethereum to take center stage. But that doesn't mean it's going to just rise, no pullbacks, no consolidation, nothing. Because think about it. Is the market going to reward everybody for just getting long Ethereum whenever they were all fucking, throwing Ethereum out and saying, fuck Ethereum, it's all about Solana, it's all about Bitcoin, it's all about memes, Ethereum's a piece of shit, Ethereum's failed, Ethereum's going nowhere. Like, is everybody who just says, oh, let's get long Ethereum, are they all going to get rewarded? No. So, chop is the most likely. You can see this now. We've got a very clear range. We've got yesterday's high and low, right? Quite a simple area to look at. Yesterday's high, yesterday's low. And when it's chopping around in here, it can do that for days and days and days, weeks and weeks and weeks. This is the first path that I mentioned a couple of days ago in trading analysis. I said basically, it was when we first moved up here. I was like, my rough guess would be this blue path was my rough guess. Where it's had the main move, people then get themselves chopped up in both directions. And then it makes a push for the highs and maybe takes out those highs and pulls back and then goes and forms a proper higher low. That's one way of looking at it. Regardless of that, I think the market as a whole, a bunch of coins pushed into what seemed like local tops of their rallies. There's probably going to be a continued dispersion where some coins do well, some coins do poorly. That's been a feature of this bull market. Like when Bitcoin had its ETF rally, Bitcoin did well and some alts did well. Not all. We didn't get an alt season. We didn't get up only for everything. I don't see why that would be any different for Ethereum, because Ethereum's smaller than Bitcoin for a start. It's certainly not as hype. It's certainly not as big of a. It's not going to attract as many flows. It's not going to be as popular on Wall Street, and even Ethereum maxis say this, right? The expectation for Ethereum is, can it bring in 10 or 20 or 30% of the flows of Bitcoin? If it does, that's a big success. So it's not going to be as big as Bitcoin. But you'll see other alts do well because now you've got a different market. You've got a market dominated by Ethereum instead of Bitcoin, at least maybe for the next few weeks. And the last thing is that there's just so much positioning built up, right? There's so much long open interest that Ethereum's probably going to chop those people up before it does go higher. And so, if it breaks 3580, I think it can follow the red path and retrace the whole thing. If it doesn't, I think it'll hold probably the daily bands and chop around here and your 4-hour bands. If you look at over there, Ethereum can continue to hold here and start to push higher. You're not going to get easy longs. You're not just going to get free longs. You never do in the market. A lot of people who are comparing this to Bitcoin in October are just way off the mark. You have to look at the difference of the market between October and now. right? Let me we'll look at the whole market. We'll look at global open interest and the funding rates. So we look at Ethereum funding rate over here, and we'll look at global OI and global funding rate for all coins. So the difference in October is clear. Back in October, we'd had negative funding across the market for months. We had neutral funding at best, and we had low levels of open interest. Global OI was about 18 billion, right? And so when Bitcoin started to go on its run, the market was not overbought. It was not long. In fact, the market was broadly short, if not sidelined. Now, fast forward 6 months, where are we? We're not at 18 billion open interest. We're at 43, more than double. We have got relatively low funding, which is good. We've got pretty neutral funding. We got a reset on that. That's decent. And we've seen a big spike up in Ethereum open interest. Ethereum open interest at all-time highs. Ethereum's price is not, right? It's not even near all-time highs. It's not even above this year's high. When Ethereum was last at all-time high back in 2021, the open interest peaked at 9.7 billion. It's now 11.6. So you have all-time high open interest, but you don't have an all-time high price. So there's more people trading Ethereum than ever, yet price is not at all-time highs. That sets up for, again, potentially some chop, some wash out of positioning. But overall, how does the market look? If you're selective with your trades, it looks decent. I talked about this yesterday about the borrow rates, the margin, exchange margin. This is one of your best proxies for how much debt is building up. People are borrowing USDT on Binance. You can see throughout October, it started to spike up and was relatively high for most of the move until the top. We then had a washout sideways and it's starting to rise up. Right? So people are taking on debt. They're getting long. They're getting long on leverage. Bybit, same thing. But these are relatively benign so far. So you can see here from the last month or so, even with the hype that came in on Monday, it spiked up, but it's not got to crazy levels. That would still tell me that up for the right coins is more likely. Funding rates have flipped positive, but we don't see a huge buildup of positions. So it tells me that people betting on the immediate continuation are at risk. And it also tells me that the next dip will be a good buying opportunity. That's very simply what the market's telling me. Right? It's not like we have crazy buildups of stablecoin leverage. And it sets up probably for a continuation once it forms a bottom. But you need to allow that bottom to form. Bitcoin is in a weird position because Bitcoin is now showing a bit of weakness around this level, right? And the problem with Bitcoin here is that people's attention is getting dragged away over onto Ethereum, and Bitcoin has given up all its gains from Monday. Now, you have to understand that's pretty normal. Ethereum dragged the market up on Monday. Ethereum dragged Bitcoin up. You normally see the opposite, right? Where Bitcoin drags up Ethereum because Bitcoin's usually the leader. But this move on Monday was led by ETH. And you'll see it here from Monday if we overlay ETH and BTC. Right? So they were both grinding up throughout Monday, and then Ethereum just ripped ahead. And as Ethereum kept rising, it also dragged Bitcoin up with it. Okay? So you look at Bitcoin compared to Ethereum there, and then you look at, well, what happened to BTC after that, BTC had its move up on Monday, wasn't able to sustain that and has retraced the entire thing. Ethereum hasn't retraced. So it's important for the market that you still have a healthy Bitcoin, because a weak Bitcoin is a weak crypto. The whole market is in general. This is really where Bitcoin needs to hold. Like, we're at a must-hold level. It's coming back down into the daily bands, back into this cluster of consolidation. You really do not want to see Bitcoin heading back into this area, because this is very clear. This is the clearest support resistance that we have. Bitcoin going back below there puts it into the lower end of the range. That's going to head it back towards 60k. And that's going to drag the market down with it. So what you really want to see is that Bitcoin's able to consolidate above that level. And if that's able to happen, you'll see Ethereum push towards 4k and beyond. And you'll see altcoins do pretty well. You've also got stock market pulling back, as I mentioned a few days ago. Anytime you see it take out highs, especially all-time highs, you want to be watching. And this path that it drew out on at the end of last week is looking more likely now. As you see, it took the highs, tried to push above all-time high, rejected back inside, and now it's just at risk of pulling all the way back, fill in that gap. And then from there, maybe it rips higher and goes to new all-time highs, or maybe it falls over and goes into more of a distribution or even just a sideways correction for the summer. In election years, stock market tends to cool off in summer. The closer we get to the election, the choppier it actually gets. If you go and look at, 2020, let's go look at 2020. This is how the S&P traded from September until November. So in the 2 months before the election, the S&P got choppy. Before that, over in May, where we are now this was coming out of COVID, so it's obviously different. Coming out of COVID, we rallied up to the start of June, and then the S&P chopped for the month of June and into July. Right. So again, summer, we got that push, but the S&P then spent 6 weeks throughout summer not making a new high. Then it grinded out higher up until September, and then it chopped for 2 months before the election. This is all bullish, right? This was bullish, building bases, moving up, building a base, retest. Right? This is just a standard support resistance flip. Nice support resistance flip, grinded, consolidated, moved higher. 2016, same thing. There's always a period, always a period pre-election where the market slows down. And we see it here. This was April, May, June of 2016. Saw that, right? Trended up early 2016, February, March, April, nice price action. Reached up into the highs, chopped around, pushed higher into July. But then, going towards the election, remember the election is always November. A lot of volatility around the election. Reversed, boom, away higher we go. 2016. 2012, guess what happened? Same thing again, right? There's always some form of chop or consolidation around the election. So March, this time we had April, May, June, July, August,